The long-awaited return of George Niang to the Utah Jazz. Can this help?
Stars days, George came to the Stars and turned our season around. Out the mud, it starts there, man, the G League. I just remember before George came, I think we had 4 wins. And from the time he came to the end of the season, we were a top 3 team in the G League.
Starting at power forward, 6'10" from Iowa State, number 23, George Niang.
It's actually funny. I remember it like it was yesterday. You know, I got signed to a 2-way with the Utah Jazz, and I was assigned, to the Salt Lake City Stars. And our first road trip was to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which I went to Iowa State, which was, close to home for me. So I was kind of like, this is awesome. But for me, it was just trying to implement, my habits and the way I felt about things, and putting winning first into everything that I did, whether that was showing up late at night to get extra shots up and bring guys with me, or taking the guys out or for brunch after practice. I just think the biggest thing is I just kept going. I wasn't going to give up. This was a dream of mine, and I sure wasn't going to let anything that anybody else said stop me from chasing my dream. So if I had any advice for anybody, and if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. But don't ever quit. Keep going, because you can beat out people just by showing up every day. And that's kind of the motto that I live my life by, is that no matter what happens, good, bad, or indifferent, I'm going to show up the next day, and you're going to have to keep knocking me down, because I'm never going to quit.
Jazz Smack, NBA and Utah Jazz basketball.
So that's George Niang talking about his time with the Salt Lake City Stars and also the Utah Jazz, the beginnings. Now he's returning. How does this help the Jazz? The Jazz desperately need positivity in the locker room and leadership in the locker room. George certainly brings that. Another thing that George brings is he is a terrific ball mover on offense. He's not a ball stopper. He's never been a ball stopper. He wasn't a ball stopper at Iowa State. He's typically very deliberate with what he tries to do, and he's very good at that. He moves the ball. The ball doesn't stick in his hands. So he's very good. That's a high-level skill, because not only is he a willing ball mover, but he's a skilled ball mover, meaning he can make the passes. Now, is George going to be a big-minute guy for the Utah Jazz? No, of course not. The Jazz are trying to develop young guys. So George is kind of there to steady the ship at times, to fill in at times. I assume that his minutes are going to be on par with what he's received in the last few years, right around in the high teens to 20 minutes a game. But in terms of a locker room presence, a personality in the locker room, a positive personality in the locker room, George is certainly that. And on the court, he's a ball mover, and the Jazz desperately need ball movers. So George fills those two roles. I mean, is he going to score a lot of points? No, he's not going to score a lot of points. But people are talking about how he's primarily just a three-point shooter, and he's a spot-up shooter, and that's true. And George is a terrific spot-up three-point shooter. His percentages are very good. But his biggest skill is that he's a ball mover, and he's a very good ball mover. And that's even more important to the Jazz than just being a spot-up three-point shooter, and help leading the young guys forward. And that's where George comes into play, is his outgoing nature, a positive influence on the young guys. He can help direct them and lead them forward. That's the biggest thing with George. So I think this is a real positive. It's a real positive for, I think, George. Is that this will be a good spot for him. I think his time with the Jazz, it gave him the career that he currently has, and he's been able to, I believe he's going into his 10th year in the NBA now. So those beginnings with the Jazz have resulted in a very long career. So I'm sure that he's thankful for that. The Jazz gave him a chance, and he totally took advantage of it, and he's been able to, forge a long NBA career, even though At times, it wasn't look like that was going to be the case. I mean, George was really good at Iowa State, and that Iowa State team that he was on under Fred Hoiberg as the coach, that was a really good NCAA team. And George was the leader of that team, his versatility and all that. I mean, but that doesn't really translate to the NBA because George is not a plus size and he's not a plus athlete. So he had to have a smaller role in the NBA, but he's totally taken advantage of that and utilized it to the max, I would say. So is he the guy that he was in Iowa State, or is he going to be the guy that he's kind of forged out in his NBA career up to this point? He's going to be the guy that he's kind of forged out in the NBA career up to this point. And the Jazz aren't looking for more than that. That's what they're looking for him. That's what they hope he provides to the young group, and I believe that he will. So out of curiosity, let's take a look at George's numbers from his time in the NBA to this point in time, just so everybody gets an idea. And really, from an offense standpoint, the three-point shooting is the number that really jumps out at you and says, okay, that is a terrific number. And as you can see over the years, starting with this past season, George shot 41% from the three-point line. The year before that, in 23-24, he shot 37.6 from the three-point line. And then the year before that, 22-23, he was 40.1. Year prior to that, 21-22, he's 40.3. 2021, he's 42.5. In 19-20, he was 40. In 18-19, he was 41. So again, those are fabulous three-point shooting numbers, and George certainly is a competent spot-up three-point shooter. You know, he's not going to get threes off the dribble. Once in a while, he'll do a sidestep, one dribble sidestep, stuff like that. But he's not going to dribble into a whole bunch of three-pointers, you know, going between his legs 3 times and doing that. That's not George. That's not who he is. That's not who he's ever been. But as a spot-up three-point shooter, he's obviously very good, and that's the number that jumps out to most people that look at this. But again, you know, he's playing right around in 24-25. He played 21.5 minutes a game. In 23-24, he played 22.3 minutes a game. In Philadelphia in 22-23, he played 19.4 minutes a game. In Philadelphia the year prior to that, in 21-22, he played 23 minutes a game. With Utah in 2021, he played 16 minutes a game. With Utah in 19-20, he played 14 minutes a game. So he's kind of fit himself into that right around 20 minutes a game mark with the previous couple of stops, and it's most likely that's where he's going to be with the Utah Jazz, high teens to right around 20, and probably no more than that, because the Jazz have so many guys that they're trying to get rotation minutes to and trying to develop. So George will be in a leadership role with the Jazz for sure. I mean, that's something that he can do. That's another thing that the Jazz need more of. They need more of a veteran presence. George certainly provides that. And George is such a sociable guy, an outspoken guy. And that, too, is something that isn't really necessarily obviously visible on the Jazz at this point. I mean, Lowry, you would say Lowry's the leader of the team, but Lowry's really not that. He's more of a quiet person. George is anything but that. And this role will fit George tremendously. As we saw in that opening clip, he went to the Stars were bad. George completely turned that Stars team around, just with his presence, with his, you know, not only his ability on the court. Yes, he was important to that Stars team with his ability on the court, because that's more of what he did at Iowa State and leading that team to be a really good team. But with the Jazz, you know, it's a leadership role. 18, 20 minutes a game in a leadership role, both on and off the court. That's what the Jazz need. So those are my thoughts on George. I'm happy to have him back. Very interesting character for sure. And it'll be nice to see him back on the court. I'd much rather see him getting minutes as a veteran than some of the guys we've seen in previous seasons for sure. So this is a nice deviation from what we've seen the past couple of years. So this will be good. But anyway, for those watching on YouTube, please like, share, and subscribe. You can also follow us on X at Jazz Smack, and we will talk to everybody later.